How's it going, guys? Welcome into another video. My name is Dylan from fieldstrengthandathletics.com. Today we are going to go over how to make an Atlas stone. Here in this box we have our hybrid stone molds. On the way in shipment is still the Slater Stone Mold, but we're going to show you how to make an Atlas stone either way to the best of my ability, so that way you can make some at home on your own as well. Let's get to it. So let's go ahead, we'll start with the hybrid. Later in the week, once the molds come in, we'll work on the Slater and I'll show you how to prep one of those as well. So, with the hybrid stone mold, you're gonna see that it has this lip all the way around with all these holes drilled through. When we're making a stone, our goal is to create as little of a gap in between these lips. When we put these two together, we want to close that gap as much as possible. So in our prep phase, that's what we're going to be focusing on. So, what we need for the prep phase, we need the mold, we need a towel, we need zip ties, and then we need a silicone sealant to go around the edge, and a bucket. So what we're going to do first, we're going to take our towel, we're going to wipe off any debris, any dust inside the two molds, just to make sure that we don't have anything that gets stuck to the Atlas stone. This will be important, especially if this is your second or third time using the mold. Get it nice and dust free. Then we're going to take the side of the mold that doesn't have the hole on it, put it on top of the bucket. We're going to take our silicone sealant and we're going to spread it around this rim, avoiding the holes where the zip ties goes. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll bring you in for a closer look.
Alright, anyways, it's going to look like that all the way around with your silicone sealant.
Now, I'm going to take the other half. I'm going to try to line it up as well as I could with these other holes. I'm going to zip tie north, south, east, and west, so equal corners. Now, after I've taken a look all the way around, see if there's any big gaps, I'm going to fill in any of these gaps with more of the silicone sealant, just to make sure that we make it as waterproof as possible. This will limit that ring you see around the hybrid stones, and it will make it a little bit more of a softer edge and a better stone in general. So now I'm going to go fill in these gaps, and then I'm going to zip tie the rest of the way around, and I'll meet you guys after that. Alright. One last thing you want to do is you want to take your rag one last time around the inside, along that edge, to make sure that you didn't get any of that silicone in there. You don't want any excess, because that will create a lumpy stone and a spot to fill later. But now that we have everything zip tied, we have it extra sealed along the outside. We're going to let this thing actually sit. Well, realistically, this time we're going to do it 24 hours, and then we're going to come back here and start filling. You only really have to wait about 30 minutes with the sealant that we have to create a watertight seal along that edge. We're going to give it a little extra time just to make sure, since it's going to be holding a lot of cement, 250 pounds. All right, guys, we're back. Day 2. We're now to the fill phase. Our hybrid mold has dried out. All of the silicone sealant has dried and should now hopefully be watertight, or at least as watertight as we can make it. So now we're going to move on to the fill phase. For the fill phase, you're going to need one pair of gloves, silicone lubricants, one rubber mallet, a spatula for mixing, something to mix your concrete, a bucket full of water, and you're going to need, obviously, your concrete. Now, when you purchase concrete, make sure you buy more poundage of concrete than you need to fill up your stone. It always is more beneficial to have extra than it is to not have enough. Other than that, let's go ahead, let's get to filling.
One last thing, make sure to have something on your floor to protect from the cement that will maybe leak out. I'm going to add some more to the floor here before we get going, but make sure that you have it covered there. All right, so before we start mixing and pouring in the concrete, one thing we do with the hybrid stone mold instead of Slater stone mold, if you don't spray the lubricant until we have it put together, just because I want to take the time to make sure that that seal dries, and now we're going to make sure that that stone doesn't stick to the inside. So we're going to get our silicone lubricant, and we're going to spray the inside. All right, now that that's sprayed, we're going to go ahead and start mixing, start pouring. Let's go. All right, not sure if you guys can see that too well, but that's the consistency we're looking for. Not too dry, not too wet, right in the middle. Now we're gonna start scooping it in. 3 bags in. Now it's getting to the point where it's too heavy to really shake around with my hands too much. So I'm gonna start hitting it with the mallet, just like so. This helps shake up, get those air bubbles out. So, got it almost all the way to the top. What we're gonna do is we're gonna shake this thing around, let all the water rise to the top. And we'll add a little bit more, and so we'll get some of the water out, more of the actual concrete in. It'll make a better stone in general. So I'm gonna go ahead, step back, and we're gonna make it happen. Let's go. Now we're gonna add some more to the top to help get some of that water out. All right, we're gonna take our little shirt. I'm gonna wipe around, just that way we can use this mold longer. The more we clean up now, the less we have to do later. Just grab an old shirt, an old rag, whatever you want. Doesn't really matter, honestly. All right, guys, it has been 1 week. This thing has been sitting in the garage, drying. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take an X-Acto knife or a pair of scissors. We're gonna go all the way around here. We're gonna cut off all the ties. We're gonna grab a screwdriver and start getting this top off. We can see that the sealant worked pretty well in areas. In the back, there's a little bit of leakage. So we'll take note of that next time, get a little bit more all the way around. So let's go ahead and open this bad boy up. Let's crack this egg. Looking all right, couple of air bubbles. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna grab some pillows, blankets, bring this over here, flip it over, take the other half of the stone out of the mold, and see how that side looks too. Perfect. All right, so let's get a nice close look at this. Don't worry, this part might still be a little wet. That's why we're pulling out of the mold, 250 pounds. Now, we're gonna tilt it here. I want you guys to see this edge. See that edge there? Is that not the cleanest edge you've ever seen on a big hybrid Atlas stone mold? That's absolutely gorgeous for hybrid. Usually you have this thick ring that looks like complete ass. Not here. So we're gonna let this bad boy dry out, and we'll come back in a week to fix up any holes left from bubbles. All right, now for the Slater Stone Mold. We have our 20-inch mold here from Slater Stones.
It's gonna be about 335 pounds when it's all set. It might be a little bit heavier than that, a little bit lighter. We'll see once we're done with it. But what we're gonna need to put this together and to start filling today, obviously is your mold, obviously your concrete, up to the weight of the stone, so 335 pounds or more. Stuff we'll still need from last time is our towel, a t-shirt to wipe down afterwards, our gloves, our silicone lubricants, and now a couple extra things we're going to need because of this mold. I like to use Gorilla Tape, and then our utility garden shovel. Something like this that's gonna help fill up the stone because it's gonna be a little bit different from last time. So let's go ahead and start putting this together and I'll show you what I mean. So we're gonna put the closed side of the mold down. Now since it's a heavier stone, we're gonna double bucket this a little bit sturdier so it doesn't collapse underneath. You're gonna see this line here. We're gonna take the other half of the mold. One thing you'll notice that this hole is a lot smaller than the hybrid stone mold. It's good to have a smaller nipple on it, but it also makes it harder to fill, which is why we have our garden shovel. So what we're going to do is we're gonna line these bad boys up. And it should slide on just like that. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tape all the way around the center, do some strips over the top with our Gorilla Tape that's going to hold this mold together. That does all four quadrants done twice. Now we're gonna take this across the center. And honestly, I'm probably just gonna use up most of the rest of the roll of tape. I'd rather over tape it. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go center, maybe top and bottom. Let's see what we can get done. That's about as much as I tape it right there. You'll see, guys, that will completely cover it. People that'll do less than that. Doesn't hurt to waste a little bit of tape if you have to. So anyways, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start mixing and pouring. So let's get to it, bud.
I'm not your buddy, friend. He's not your friend, guy. I'm not your guy, buddy. He's not your buddy, friend.
Very nice. Now, we'll let that sit for a week. All right, it's been a week. It's time to open up the big boy and see how we did. Let's go. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take off all this tape. Now that I've got all the tape off, we're gonna take this block that they send with you. You're gonna wedge it right at this line there, and then take your mallet and just start tapping and take it off. And there you have it. All right, that is a 335 mold. Got a nice little ring all the way around. Decent sized nipple on it. Pretty smooth on the top half. This half definitely has some air bubbles. Had a harder time with this bigger stone. But anyways, we'll let that sit for another week. And then we'll clean it up. All right. All right, guys. This thing has now been sitting here total 2 weeks. 1 week in the mold, 1 week out of the mold. It's almost done. What we're gonna go and do now is we're gonna take our angle grinder and we're gonna work off this nipple a little bit. And we're also gonna come along the edge. We did a great job keeping this edge small. We're just gonna grind down anything that's still there that we weren't able to break off by our hand. After that, we're gonna come through and we're gonna patch, put some cement patch on all these little holes around there, make a nice smooth stone. Then after that, we're gonna show you how to seal and really finish a stone. But what we're gonna do first is we're gonna grind this all down and then we'll get to the rest of that. Let's go ahead and get to it. Now that we've grinded off any edges that we want off, we're gonna get, this stone's gonna be a little dusty. So we're gonna take a shirt, whatever you just got lying around, and we're just gonna do it. Whoop. Get that dust off, nice and easy. What we're going to do next is we're gonna take our patch, we're gonna start pushing this into all the little holes here. Make sure you're wearing gloves. We should come by. Start pushing it into these holes, smoothing out the stone. Right, as I was saying, this material is of a sandier quality. So once it dries in 24 hours, we're gonna come back, sand it down, wet it down, and then we're going to seal the stone. And then once you're done with that, stone's good to go. How awesome is that? All right, I'm gonna let this patch set. I'll see you guys in 24 hours. All right, so we are back after a little bit more than 24 hours. This has set, the last little patch here, and we're gonna come back, we're gonna smooth this out a little bit. We might even take the angle grinder a little bit more back to it, but we should be able to do most of it with just a piece of sandpaper. We're gonna go ahead, smooth this out, and then we're going to wipe off any of the extra dust that you get, and then we'll seal. So let's go and get started. All right, sanded down the edges. Now we're gonna get some of this dust off, pretty much the entire stone, clean this up a bit, then we'll get it nice and wet. All right, so this next part is something I saw Alan Thrall do, and this is actually my first time sealing it the way that we're going to. We're gonna go around, we're gonna try to get all this extra dust off. Then we're gonna take a towel, wet it off, get even more dust off, and then we're gonna actually kind of seal it with our tacky, and I'll show you that when we get there. So first, let's get this nice and damp, get all this dust off. All right, so what we've done for this part is we've taken some Elite Tacky, we put it in the microwave until it gets a little bit more liquid in there. And then what we're gonna take is our angle grinder. This is the way I saw Alan do it, so this is what we're gonna try, see if it works like it did in his video. And then we're gonna take our angle grinder with a floppy disk on it, and then we're going to kind of polish it down until it gets nice and sealed. First step is to get this tacky on the stone. All right, guys, there's the top half done. It's so shiny you can literally see the reflection of me standing back here. And you can see the light shining off that stone. That's the angle grinder that we used with the disc. That's the stone. And now we're gonna get the bottom half. All right, guys, time for the moment that you've all been waiting for. Which mold do I prefer? Both have their strengths, both have their weaknesses. With the Slater Stone Mold, you have the weakness of having a smaller mouth in which to fill, which also is an advantage because it has a smaller nipple once you get done grinding it all down. Other strengths is that it has a strong seal right off the bat. Weakness, you have to spend a while taking all that tape to put it on and to take it off. The hybrid mold, the big knock on it is that it usually gives that big ring because of all the moisture coming out of those little duct lips that we have. But as you've seen, if you use the silicone sealant, it actually stops that leakage, and then it has pretty much the same seal as the hybrid stone mold. But one big advantage for the hybrid stone mold is that those duct lips are a great handle to use when you're trying to rotate, shake it, and get all those air bubbles out. If you don't have a lot of power tools available to help out with that, that's a big advantage for most of us. A disadvantage and an advantage for the hybrid stone, both in the same as its big wide mouth. Yes, it does create a larger flat spot or a larger nipple, but it also makes it a ton easier to fill. So as you can see, these two stone molds are very competitive. Both have a lot of strengths and weaknesses. I'd have to say the hybrid stone mold is my favorite. If you use that silicone sealant, the big knock on it is not a problem, and it also took less time to really set it up because that tape takes a while. So with the silicone sealant and the zip ties, you can get just as good a seal. It's easier to fill up, and honestly, if it has a bigger flat spot or a smaller flat spot, it really doesn't matter. It's a stone, you're supposed to pick it up, I don't care, use your tacky, right? I know that's a pretty controversial pick, but I actually preferred the hybrid stone mold. And going into this, I did not expect that at all. I expected to love those Slater Stone Molds out of everything that I've seen. But I think from here on out, with the wider selection, the lower price, easier shipping, I might go hybrid stone molds from here on out. Oh, that's scary. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video and you learned how to build Atlas stone, please give it a big old thumbs up, subscribe down below so you can see every video that we release. Once again, merch is on the webpage, fieldstrengthathletics.com. Click the merchandise title, go check out all of our gear and clothes and, hell, fanny packs that you can do to help support the brand. All right, guys, go out, do something great. I'll see you guys on the other side. Peace.